life? How do you really grow big? You know, how do you add that zero onto your income? Because what I see so often in life is people who are full of talent, full of great ideas, and they build businesses, and they do well with them. They make money, they get to have a pretty comfortable lifestyle, but they never get to the level that they're truly capable of. They some reason they can't make that leap to having a big company. They can't take a mom and pop and take that next step and turn it into a real company, and ultimately, it could be a massive company that's, does business all over the world or whatnot. But there's something that typically holds the average person back from being all they can be when it comes to growing their company. And I want to give you just one particular angle on this, and it's something that I found to be so incredibly true in my own life over the years, because I've had the benefit of having really, really big companies and really, really small companies that I started from scratch, and I've been able to sort of see the struggles and the challenges and also the easy parts of being both big and small. And here is one secret that most people really don't understand who are running small companies. One of the things that stops them from growing big is they can't imagine themselves running a massive company. They just don't understand how it could possibly happen without it consuming their life, all the complications and all the problems. They look at their business the way it is right now with maybe 3 or 4 employees or 8 employees, and they see all the headaches that are associated with that, and all the struggles that they have, and all the personality differences, and all the sort of egos that are involved, and the power plays that typically happen in small companies. And they say to themselves, how the fuck am I gonna, ever take this and have a 300-person company or into a 500-person company? Just would seem absolutely impossible. And here's what I want to tell you. Believe it or not, in the world of business, it's actually easier to be big than small. There's this certain level that you cross over as you start to grow, when you get big enough, where you can actually eliminate a lot of these personality clashes. Because here's what happens. What happens in a very small company is each employee is so valuable and is almost irreplaceable because they're the only one doing their job function, that what happens is you end up having these power plays that typically develop between the owner and his employees, where each person just feels they're so indispensable and so valuable that they basically get the sense of entitlement. And that is what leads to a lot of the problems in small companies. That's one aspect. The second aspect is when you have a small company, you can't afford to staff up and hire these middle-level managers and also pay them. And also, when you're growing large, you also have this amazing vision, right? So you can attract great people to a company that's growing fast. So you end up getting great people that can actually get into these middle-level layers of management and diffuse so much of the burden from you. So what happens is a small company, you're in this area of running 3, 4, 10, 12 people in a company, it's like everything falls on the entrepreneur. There's no buffers in the middle. Every employee seems so valuable. You lose one salesman out of 3, it's a disaster, right? And they start to talk and they gather up and they try to almost get this little fiefdom against the owner. That vanishes when you have 30 salespeople. That vanishes when you have sales managers in place and managers above them. So what happens as you grow a company, if you're doing it correctly and you're delegating out authority after you systemize, right? You have to first systemize, then delegate. Okay, systemize, optimize, systemize, then delegate, right? When you're doing it correctly, what you do is you actually eliminate a lot of the personality clashes, a lot of these little fiefdoms, that the power plays that develop on the micro level when you're running a very small company. So what I'll say to you is this: I've ran big companies where I've had thousands of employees, and it was actually easier to run these bigger companies than it is to run a company with 8 people. When you have 8 people, every person has a big voice. And I'm not saying you want to disempower people that are not entitled to a voice. What I'm saying is that very often the voices start to run amok in a small company. So my point here is that if you're being held back right now by simply not being able to imagine yourself managing a large company, or thinking that if you end up building a big company, you're going to end up sacrificing most of your life for this company, you'll be working 10 times harder. Well, in fact, you'll actually be working less. Because if you build your company the right way, what you do is you delegate out authority to great people, and you're going to attract great people when you're growing, right? Because they see the upside, you get profit sharing and so forth. So you're attracting great people, and you actually lessen your burden. You eliminate a lot of these little, micro fiefdoms that happen in these tiny companies, and your ability to live a great life and make even more money is enhanced, not detracted from. So again, remember, okay, when you're thinking about growth, when you're thinking about getting big, don't let this idea that if I grow big, my business will consume me, stop you from making the right decision. In fact, if you do this the right way, you can set yourself up and buffer yourself and insulate yourself. Now, you don't have to work, because you always have to be the figurehead and the leader, and there's always work required, but you can get yourself to a position where you're actually working less, and you have less day-to-day hassles. You're not so much involved in the minutia of every aspect of your business. Now, of course, it requires hiring great people, setting up great systems. These are the rules of succeeding wildly. When I always say, there's failing elegantly, which is, how do you be wrong, right? But this is the other side. What do you do when you're right? How do you grow it? And the answer is you have to set up great systems, optimize, systemize, delegate, and then make sure that you grow big enough so any one person doesn't have that much power in your company. That, with a great product, a great ascension model, is just a recipe for not just success, but also a calm, healthy life. Because I will tell you, the biggest problems I've ever had is when I'm running very small companies. When the companies are big, these things tend to get sorted out. The issues get sorted out at lower levels, and you're more of the peacemaker and the visionary, and you get to enjoy really the big picture decisions, and you delegate out the minutia to other people.